Hello, Galaxy. I'm Chris Pirillo, and I love sharing my thoughts, perspectives, opinions, advice with you. And I appreciate that you take the time to listen. But if I say something that you happen to not agree with, or maybe you think that something could be done better or in a different way, at least as far as addressing a problem is concerned, or talking about the subject at hand for any given time that I'm spending with you, anything that I might put out there, one size does not fit all as far as advice is concerned. So by all means, keep an open mind. But I will, in return, keep an open mind as well. I'm here for you, and I'm glad you're here for me. Fear is the subject I wanted to talk about today, because fear can grip you. And pretty soon, that grip that fear has is you. And there's no separating you from the actual fear. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. That's right. I'm quoting Yoda from The Phantom Menace. It's a great line. It's a perfect line. But what I'm telling you is, it's okay to feel fear. Your fight or flight response, that's normal. That's natural. It's instinctual. You've got to be afraid of certain things because your life could very well be in danger. Those are rational fears. Those are fine. Those are normal. We're not necessarily talking about that. We're talking about the irrational fears. The fears that are real in your head, but not real in the world. And if you've lived your entire life with a fear, then it has become your life. It has, brought you into a space that may be increasingly difficult to escape the more time you wrap yourself around that blanket of fear. Because that fear that keeps you perceivably safe becomes a security blanket. And the problem with you constantly living in fear is that you force everybody around you to live in that fear as well. And I'm not saying that they fear you, but they understand or potentially understand that you make decisions based upon these irrational fears. Again, I'm not talking about the real fears. That's because two different subjects altogether. Irrational fears. Fears that can and should be faced. And that's my suggestion. It's an easy one. I'm not the first person to suggest this. I'd be surprised if you have not heard this recommendation before. You got to face your fear. You got it. Rational or irrational. You have to face it. Because if you don't, it's just going to continue to wrap itself around you and work its way through you and become you. You yourself will be inextricable from that fear. And that's something that's going to damage everything around you. You may not see it that way, but it will, because you're operating in a place that nobody else may be operating from. Nobody else has that fear, especially the irrational fears that only exist in your mind. And you living in that fear and staying in that constant state of fear is going to twist things from the inside out. It's not just a personal thing. It becomes an interpersonal thing when you're interacting with other people, and I'm guessing you do. Unless you're someone who exists on their own and never interacts with anybody at all in any way, shape, or form. You probably have personal relationships, or maybe you don't. Because maybe the fear that you have is something bad is going to happen. What's the possibility? What's the worst that could happen, right? Start working your way through facing that fear. I'm not saying it's easy, and I'm definitely not saying it's fun. But if you don't face it, you're doomed to suffer. It's inevitable. Hell, I'd argue that if you've been ignoring your fear for as long as you have, fears, whatever, especially the irrational ones, the ones that exist in your head, not the real ones, the fake ones that you've invented. I'm not saying you meant to do it. Many of the irrational fears that we have are psychosomatic, right? They exist. And we may not be able to explain them, but we still have to face them. Because our life and the experiences we have in our life could very well be halted and certainly stunted to a point where we can't enjoy life because the fear is keeping us in control rather than us controlling the fear. Because that's what happens when you've got the fear and you let it control you, you let it make the decisions for you, You're not in control. You want control? So many people say, oh, I want control. I need control in my life. Why does everyone else control my life? No. It's because you're not doing it, dude. That's why. Like, you're letting fear control you. That's why. So, control your fear. There, you've controlled something. Because you can't control what other people do. You can't control what other people say. You can't control what other people believe. You can't control what other people think. You can only control yourself. And part of controlling yourself is keeping yourself in check. That's your responsibility. You are accountable to yourself. Don't turn to somebody else to help you get through what you need to process. They may help you along the way, right? Counselors, people to talk to, friends, family. They may help you along the way, but you still got to do the work. I can't tell you. I can't tell you this strongly enough. I try to finish that sentence there. This is on you. I'm not here to motivate you. I'm here to tell you you need to motivate yourself to control your fear rather than letting it control you. By facing it, by addressing it, by working through it, by talking about it, by sharing what it is that you think and what it is that you feel. To recognize that, wow, maybe I have been silly and this is an irrational fear and this is probably not going to happen if I do this, that, or the other thing. Sometimes we need a healthy shot of reality. Well, consider this a little bit of reality for you. I have fears. I'm certainly not sitting here on a gilded throne saying that I'm perfect. Absolutely not. I have fears, but I have learned to face them. And this is a lesson that has been hard learned by our daughter. You know, she's everyone's got fears, right? Especially children. But she hasn't quite figured out her strategy to work through her fears, because she still very much depends on us, her parents, to help guide her and be there for her. And so part of her growth is facing fears and her concerns, to recognize that she may be afraid of not being around us for, let's say, an hour's time when she might be with, my parents or her parents or family or, trusted individuals, people that we know, and, they're doing things in public and safe circumstances. Because we would, as parents, it would be a fear of ours to never put her in an unsafe situation, and certainly to have her be old enough that she could communicate to us or that we could recognize that something was wrong. I think we're past that point with Jedi now being 7 years old. There was a situation the other day where my parents, now that they've left, when they were still here, they wanted to spend some time with her. Jedi did not want to go, and she was just adamant. She did not want to go. Like, why? They wanted to do all these things with you. And you could tell she wasn't saying it out loud, but she was afraid. She needed to process it. I was greatly concerned that she wasn't going to process it, that she was going to shelve it and revel in her fear. But we've had these conversations before, talking about how courageous she's been and how brave she is. And facing her fears is exactly what she needs to do to conquer them. And she must have thought about it long enough, and she flipped on a dime and decided, yeah, I'm going to go. And I asked her, what? That must have been really hard for you to process. What did you do? How did you arrive at that decision? And she says, I'm going to face my fear, because she knew that she's done it before and she's been happy in doing it before and proud of doing what she did before. And she realizes the benefits of facing her fear. So if a 7-year-old can do it, you, as assumedly an adult or teenager or someone certainly older than 7 years old, you can do it too. Jedi is not going to be raised to not face her fears. Jedi is not going to be raised to be controlled by her fears. She's going to control her fears. She's going to face them. She's going to talk about them. We, as her parents, as her family, are going to do everything we can to protect her. But her fears are her fears alone to face. We cannot bear that burden. That's something we cannot do. She's learning through us. She learns how to deal with this stuff as we deal with it. She's leveraging our strength until she has our own. So I wanted to relate that tale, and I thought, why not? Why not let everybody know that it is high time for you to compartmentalize your fears, face them, figure out your strategies, talk to somebody else, but stop. I beg you, stop letting fear control the decisions you make. You're in charge of you.